fancy intro music. Yeah! Woo!
Good morning, Star Trek Fleet Command fans. Today's video, we're going to give you a no-fluff, straight answer officers to use with the new Outpost feature in the game. Today, we'll actually take a look at one of those as well. We're going to talk about what officers work, which ones do not, because that's been asked quite a bit, as well as trying to give you some tips, hints, and some good one-on-one information to get you started, whether you're G5, G6, or one of our G7 players out there in the void. Now, number one, we're going to start off with is actually just what works. I'll actually show you some of the crews that I'm working. As a quick reminder, on screen, this is the actual Outpost mechanic. Remember, you're going to get directives. You can do that, every couple of days, whenever you decide to do them. Turn those in after you do the hostiles. You're going to do waves in the hostiles. Remember, you do the outpost, and then you sit there with 2 up to 3 ships, go through the process of hitting the hostiles, get currencies, do refineries, etc. We've covered this in a different video already, so I don't want to get too much into the weeds. Let's get into the officers right here. And as you can see, we've made a pretty list. Now, for those of you who are really into spreadsheets, I've added all these to the Outpost spreadsheet down in the comment section down below. We actually used this spreadsheet yesterday, so it should be familiar with you. It's also in my Discord in the Volunteer Charge channel. So if you want the graphic, you want all the stuff, check all the different places. But let's go over just some officers at work. Now, to be clear, I'm not making a full exhaustive list. I'm not going over all 200 of the officers. What I wanted to show you are main officers that you should consider using, as well as officers that a lot of you will have max or handy, as well as going over below decks, pro tips, etc. So as you can see, we've got 5 of 11, Pike, we've got Jean-Luc Picard, we've got TNG Data, Yuki, TOS McCoy, all potential captains that you might see used. But in terms of officers at work, you got Kang, Marcus, Sharvanik, Tyler, DJ Aoki, Tau, those all needing burning, of course. Martok, Nero, Giorgio, those 2 of those providing states. You've got Kirk for morale, Spock if you wanted shields, but to be completely honest, would not ever recommend using Spock as a shield regenerator in this point of the game. I just put that there because he technically works. You've got Lorca for hull breach, Gorkon for hull breach, Harry Mudd. In fact, the Mudds and Eurydice, really underrated. Shout out to Magu on my Discord. He'll hit you up with that one. Tilly's out, etc. I also wanted to really point out these 2 here, Riker and Khan, for creating criticals, more damage. Now, these hostiles, you're hoping go less rounds. I mean, you want them to be as short as possible, that means you take less damage. So the Mudds and something like that could be more viable. You'll also notice we have a lot of mitigation officers that we're focusing on here. And then over in the below decks, you're seeing Wrath of Khan Joaquin, Pelia. That's going to be very critical for the Borg outpost because those ones have ISO damage modifiers. You'll see that here in just a second. The Quantum Slipstream FT does work, as well as the Godsend Chaos Tech and the Loot Chaos Techs, though maybe you don't really want to focus in on that. And also, pro tip, put Wrath of Khan Joaquin on one ship and Pelia on the other one going against the Borg, just to boost that ISO defense as much as you can. You'll see some examples of crews that you can use here with below decks included and some captains and officers, but there are a lot of different things you can put together. We'll add to this list if needed, but I wanted to give you options so that you can actually see what works in these runs. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at here today. And as a quick reminder and a quick aside, there is a cap here. So for our G7 players, remember, technically officers like Harrison work, but not if you're going against the G7s up there. And some of those might not be valuable depending on what level player you are, G5 through G7. Just keep those in mind. Last thing I want to hit is there have been a lot of problems with Outpost launching. Hopefully by the time you're watching this video, they are not as problematic. Scopa did a whole explainer of hey, here's how everything's borked and why it got borked and how we're unborking it. So before we get into it, let's talk crews of what I'm doing. So we're going to take this off the screen, ladies and gentlemen. Watch as the magic appears. Gone. Show you a couple of the crews that I'm using. So you have 5 of 11 Khan and Gorkon with a slew of below deck officers that all work. Again, you're going to have to do below decks that are always on abilities. That's the only thing that's really going to have effect here. So that's why I've got things like Wrath of Khan Joaquin. Before anybody asks, yes, his description is wrong, and yes, he works. Then you have Strange New World Dejak, who's basically just a better mariner. Picard Q, who is going to have hull regen, which is very important if you're trying to last all these rounds. It's an example on the Rotaran. Come over here, you'll see a similar type of setup, just finding anything that works. I put Dazot back there just for my friend Ice Wolf. He's not doing anything though, but just anything that can provide some level of bonus below decks. And then I've got a mitigation officer up here with an energy weapon boost. That doesn't really matter. We got a mitigation booster. We got criticals, and again, hull breach just for hitting those hostiles that spawn, just trying to make sure we take them down. But there are a slew of options again that you can run. So what we're going to do is we're going to fly out there and take a look at one of these together. But again, the main key we want to focus on with officers, these are very much the same path as the Khans champions, which you can find in the Augment faction. Hopefully you G4 players have been working on those. This is all stuff that ends up working together, which, speaking of things, make sure you're getting in there and working on unlocking that quantum slipstream drive. Don't forget about it, because that does work on this list. But that's also why we're going after Joaquim and going through those Khans champions, so we can get these officers and things that we need. All right, now that we're getting in the system, let's launch on the Outpost. Let's go ahead and hit that button. Yay, it's exciting. And we're going to get it going. Make sure you join with both ships. Remember, you need to be level 40 on the building to use 3 ships, but below decks, it's going to be hard to crew without. So we'll leave those here and we'll let that start running. But again, put these back on the screen. I don't need to make y'all sit through this. Y'all know the process of how it works. Do be mindful and careful with your directives, with there being some breaks here lately. And that has honestly been frustrating. But let's hit again main officers. I really want to also harp on the fact that you want to use things like Mud and Eurydice, especially if you're looking at keeping things short. And where are my officers here? Make them up here, Rev. Make them up here. Bam! The power of the internet. So again, below decks, anything that isn't always on. And then in terms of above decks, we're really focusing on things like mitigation. We want to make sure that we can try to survive all 72 rounds of those hostiles. We'll go 42 rounds for the base set of the hostile, and then 30 for the wave 2 versions, which are much tougher. Now, as you can see, I'm going after the Borg one here. The reason I'm going after the Borg solo outpost is I believe it's the easiest. Now, with me not having all the directions, we did not math that out, but this is based on the assumption because this is an ISO based one. So not only can you activate the ISO defense ability in the actual outpost itself once you've conquered it, but if you look at, like, for example, the node outpost, that's going to take a whole health reduction, and apex barrier. While there are shred, there are less ways to get shred that work on neutral type of hostiles, gold hostile bosses, which is kind of what we're working on here. ISO defense is the easiest to get, and as you can see by the rewards, what's wrong with focusing on the Borg? Nothing. Everything's kind of identical here. Again, we're trying to make it as far as we can. There's even an argument to punching up for better rewards. Like if you're on the cusp of, say, level 60, but you could make it a decent way into the 63s, you can see there's a massive jump in the payouts there, but it's going to depend on how much you can actually do to survive. So back over here we go. Like I said, all that in the spreadsheet in the description of this video. Look down below, and again, you're going to come in here, you're just going to fight the outpost. Beating the outpost is primary, but don't forget, you really do want to focus on trying to then get the retaliation wave hostiles after that. There's 40 wave 1s followed by 32 wave 2s with an escalating difficulty between wave 1 and wave 2, which is why, again, we focused on things like ISO defense below decks, trying to get criticals where we can, but there are, again, other options, very defensive related. Just try to have as much survivability as possible. So that is kind of the key plan here. Now, there are some abilities that we had on that chart that work versus the hostiles, but not against the actual outpost itself. Getting past the outpost shouldn't be too difficult. As you can see, we're going to do it there. Then we start our 5-minute timer. But do remember that things like TOS, McCoy, and Yuki are mainly for the officer side of things, or the hostile side of things. But again, with the design of these being shorter fights, these aren't things that are going 15 rounds, maybe not needed. Hopefully this is giving you the crews that you need to go out and leave this sitting for 6 hours. And If not, let me know what crews you're using down in the description down below. As always, shout out to the volunteers who helped as we did a lot of officer testing to confirm which ones work and which ones do not here in the Outpost so that you too can leave ships there for 6 hours, assuming you survive, and collect rewards. That's all I got for you. Live long and plunder. Stay safe, other Space Cowboys. Deuce, that's me. Catch you on the next Star Trek Fleet Command video, and I'm out.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.